Hi, how you doing? Jimmy here. Well, the clocks are going back this Sunday. The temperature is dropping as we speak. It's tipping it down with rain. Do you think it's safe to say the summer's over? Yes, it's the time of year where we turn to the heaters. If you're doing a camper van, or you're about to do a camper van and you haven't sorted your heating system out yet, you might want to watch this video. It could save you some money. I think I saved about £850. So stay right where you are. I'll be back in a second to tell you more right after this. Hiya, welcome to my channel. Jimmy here, the Geordie lad from Whitley Bay. If you're new to my channel, think about subscribing. And if you click the little bell icon, you'll be notified of any new videos, just like these. I'm going to blow away some cobwebs. This is day one of our holiday to Cornwall. Westwood Cove. Westwood Cove. Ho! Westwood Ho! Pen Dog Get. It's pretty quiet here today, probably because it's tipping it down with rain. Well, it's nearly dark. Ooh. It's Great North Run Day. Very early start. I think we got up at 5 o'clock this morning. I won't do the naughty bits on camera. What do you think of those? Lovely. Which heater to put in your camper van? Now there's a thing. That's what I was asking myself about 9 months ago. And to be honest, originally I wasn't going to put a heater in. I thought, I'm a hardy northerner. We're only going to be away in the summer. No need for a heater. What with everything else we're going to be spending on the build, we could do without spending the money on the heater. But let me tell you, I've just had a 4-day trip to Scotland, and boy was I pleased we had a heater. Firstly, let me start by saying I'm no expert on heaters. I've just done my research like everybody else. But there's 4 main types of heaters going caravans and campers. You've got LPG, which is butane and propane, wood burner, electric and diesel heater. And as I used to drive an ambulance for a while, we had a diesel heater in the ambulance and it worked really well. So for that reason alone, I plumbed for a diesel heater. Now the main makers of diesel heaters in caravans and campers until recent years were Webasto and Truma. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing them wrong, but that's the two. And I priced them this morning, and the price that was on the internet this morning was between £800 and £2,000. But don't worry, there is a third option. There is Chinese heaters on the market now. I'm not sure how long they've been out, but they're a copy of the other two, but much cheaper. Now they've had some bad reports. There's some nightmare stories on the market, so you take a chance really. The stories I've heard is they take a long time to arrive. The delivery time is terrible, and sometimes they're incomplete. Not all the parts are there, but they're £140. So I decided to take a chance. I ordered one, and my experience is they were great. They arrived in about a week. All the parts were there. The only thing is the instructions, although they are written in English, they don't make sense. So I think I threw mine away. But you can work it out. And as I say, mine has worked really, really well. I have got no problems with mine as well. And if you say the cheapest one was £1,000, I've saved £850 on what I would have spent. Well, enough talking. I'll show you it. It's located in the garage area of the camper van underneath the bed. So I'll show you it in 3 sections. I'll show you the living area part, I'll show you underneath the vehicle, and I'll show you in the garage. So let's have a look. When you're at the planning stage of your heater, most people just think of the inside of the vehicle and where they want the heater to go. But it's very important that you go underneath your vehicle to make sure that when you drill the 2 holes needed, that you don't drill into anything important. Things like chassis rails, brake pipes, handbrakes, and spare wheels. You have to plan where you're going to mount the exhaust and the intake, and bear in mind they should not be together. The exhaust should be one side and the intake should be other. The reason for that is you don't want to be taking any exhaust gases and recycling them back into your heater. When I was planning my heater, I came at it from another angle. I came at it from underneath first. I had to decide where to put the exhaust and where to put the intake, and then see whereabouts inside I could fit the heater. Another thing to remember, which is quite important, is when you're fitting your exhaust, you need the open end of the exhaust to be pointing down, and you should be from the in where it comes through the floor, it should be gradually going down and then pointing down. This is so that you don't trap any water in, like condensation or any water off the road, because if you do, it'll just lie inside the silencer and corrode it from the inside. It's not good. So always keep your exhaust, the open end of your exhaust, pointing down. I've mounted my exhaust on the same sort of mountings that cars have, which is 2 metal plates with a rubber sandwich in the middle, so it takes the vibration away. Not that you're going to get a lot of vibration from this, but it just stops any vibration through the body as well. So I've got an exhaust mounting above there. Now the mini ones are very good. They're just like a bobbin, and that's what I've used. Also, I've got my body of my heater raised on legs inside the van, so you have to take into account you're going to need more of the exhaust and more of the intake pipe to stick through the floor. So don't just measure it from where you want the mounting to go to the floor, because then if you're going to put it on legs, because mine is higher up. I've also tried to mount mine out of the way of any splashes. Now we've got, very hard to see in here, but there is the chassis rails here which are protecting it. And also, I know it's hard to see, where I've put the intake, I've put it up the back of a chassis rail, and I've also put a cover on it, which you'll see better in some of the stills that I've taken. Again, that's just to keep any dirt or water that's been thrown up from the road off it, and hopefully make it last a bit longer. Also remember, the exhaust is very hot. You don't want it too near things. I know that might look like it's near the spare wheel there, but it's not. I've even made a heat sink out of an old baked bean tin to keep the exhaust heat from the insulation and the wooden floor. And I've also got an extra strap on here. Don't just rely on this one, I've put another one there as well. It's all common sense stuff, I think. That's my cover for my air intake. This is just a piece of angled metal that I've put over, and the chassis rail is in front of it so that it can't get anything splashed off the road wheels, and it's open at the end so it can draw air in. And hopefully you can see that my exhaust isn't too near the spare wheel there, and that's where it comes in through the floor. Never be tempted to take a shortcut and put the intake or the exhaust inside the vehicle. That would be very dangerous. It's designed this way to prevent harmful gases like CO2 and hydrocarbons from coming into your vehicle, and if you take any shortcuts, you're putting yourself at risk. When I installed this heater way back in spring of 2019, I wasn't doing YouTube videos, so unfortunately I don't have any footage of me actually installing it, but I'll show you around and it's pretty obvious. I think you'll get the gist of it. I'm just thinking, I'm pretty sure I've took some stills of the heater installation. I took them for the DVLA change of use. So I'll dig them out and put them in the edit. As I say, I wasn't doing YouTube videos in spring 19 until our holiday in Cornwall, and I started doing them then. So anybody that's seen any of my previous videos will know the camper van's not finished. It's nowhere near finished actually, and I'm just about to take it off the road and crack on with some more of the build, which will be on YouTube. So keep your eyes open for that if you're interested, or you could always subscribe. Another good reason to subscribe, so hit the subscribe button and you won't miss any. Okay, this is the fuel tank. It's a 10-litre fuel tank which can be mounted two different ways. This way, or if you want the filler on the other side, it can be turned around and mounted the other way. Some people don't like these tanks. I think they're really good. One of the reasons they don't like them is because the filler is a third of the way from the bottom, so the bottom third of the tank is not usable. But another way to look at that is, if there's any dirt in the fuel, it always settles to the bottom, like in your car. So with the outlet being a third of the way up, if there is any dirt in your fuel tank, you won't be drawing it through. Another advantage of having a separate tank is you can use red diesel. Red diesel, if you don't know what that is it's normal diesel, but it has red dye put into it so that the customs and excise can see what diesel you're using, and it's not allowed to be used in your car. It must be agricultural or heating, and it doesn't have the duties of normal diesel, so it's not as expensive. So that's another good reason. Moving on from the tank, the diesel comes out the tank into an inline filter. Now this filter is not the one that is supplied with the heater. This is a slightly better one. Car accessory shops have them in, they're not expensive. Then carrying it along here into the doorpost, round the back and into this compartment. where it goes into the pump, and some people were complaining of the pump vibrating on the body of the van. So again, I've used an exhaust mounting off a Mini, the bobbin ones like I was describing when I was under the vehicle. That's there, and it takes all the shock out of the mounting, so you don't get any vibration. The wiring plugs into the bottom of the heater and in and up into the door post, up to the top of the door post, and my heater controller is up in there. I'll tell you more about that later. My heater is mounted on little legs. I know it's hard to see, but there's little legs, and they were bought from B&Q. They're little table legs, I think, and it just keeps the heater that little bit higher up, which keeps the exhaust clamps and the air intake clamp inside the vehicle and out of the way of any road dirt or water. And so if you need to take your heater out in the future, the clamps should not be seized because they're out of the way of the weather. And this end is the heat exchange intake. Goes through the heater, over the heated element, and out through that pipe into the inside of the van. Another advantage of having the heater on legs is it gets air circulation all around it, which should stop the heater from getting too hot. How to determine the position of your heater? In my case, I knew I wanted it into the garage part of the camper van, underneath the bed, and the exact location was determined by looking under the vehicle and seeing where was a good place to drill the holes for the exhaust and the air intake. Also the length of the exhaust and where I wanted to mount it, and the length of the intake and where I wanted to mount that. And then that gives you the positions available to put your heater. Okay, that's the heat outlet into the living area of the van. The hot air blows out of there. There is only one, which is absolutely fine. It's enough. When the heat has been on for 10-15 minutes, the van is like toast. But if you did have likes of a shower or something and wanted it in, you could buy a T-piece or a Y-piece and duct it into other areas if you wanted. But that doesn't come with the kit. You only get one in the kit. And here we have the controller. It's located in the driver's side rear corner of the van, at the foot of the bed. And the little silver switch below it doesn't come in the kit either. It's something I've added. I didn't want the display to be illuminated all the time, so I've put a cut-off switch on there. So you simply switch that on and there's your display. You can operate the heater from the display unit there. There's buttons and switches on there, or it comes with a remote controller, which I hang in a convenient place next to me in the bed. So when you wake up in the morning, all you need to do is lean forward, switch the silver switch on, and then the rest of the operation is done by the remote control. Now, a downside of putting the silver switch in, the cut-off switch in, is that you wouldn't be able to use the timer facility, because when you turn it off, the clock goes off as well. So the timer is obviously worked off the clock. So what you could do is switch that on if there was a time where you wanted to use the timer, but then you'd have to reset the clock before you set the timer, which I can't ever see me doing. I just want a simple on-off and temperature control. I'm not going to say anything about the controls, about how to use them, because to be honest, I don't know. I've thrown my instructions away. The only operation I need is to turn it on, turn it off, and heat control. That's all I'm worried about, and that's very straightforward. If you did want to use the timer, you might understand the instructions. If not, there is other videos on YouTube that goes into things like that. But as I say, I don't need that. Well, that's about it for this video. I hope you understood what I was saying. If you didn't and you have any questions, I'm only too happy to answer them. Let me know what you thought of the video. And as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you click the little bell, you'll be notified of any new videos. So until next time, take care. Thanks for watching.